Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the podcast, The Pocket Stylist. So I'm Lisa Talbot, and today I'm really chuffed because we've actually been talking for about the past 45 minutes before I pressed record. But I'm joined by Peter, the stylist, aka Peter Kane. So Peter, it is so lovely to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me on this podcast. And by the way, this is the first podcast I've ever done, so it's even more exciting.
But it's brilliant, isn't it? And because we kind of came into contact through social media because you're based in Sheffield and I'm
Yes.
based, down near London.
Yeah, it's the perfect combination though, because I actually used to live in London. And then I actually relocated up to Sheffield. So we definitely have that in common as well, because I know exactly what it's like in that London lifestyle. Very
Yeah.
busy.
And it is. And do you know what? They've opened the Elizabeth line, you can get around London, especially into Canary Wharf and Liverpool Street, so much quicker. But before we're going to talk today, aren't we, about the positivity of clothing, of what you wear, because
We are.
you and I both 100% agree with this. But for everyone who's listening and for those that are watching on YouTube, just give everybody a little bit of kind of brief history about yourself, because you started your kind of styling career, didn't you, in a department store a long time ago. Just tell everybody, where that all started.
Yes, so I was in John Lewis for about 10 years in Sheffield. Originally, I lived in London and I worked in various boutiques on the King's Road with gorgeous vintage emporiums. One of them was Steinberg and Tolkien, which used to dress people like Kate Moss. And
Ah,
Galliana would come in, Anna Sui would come in, and it was just an absolute treat. And that's probably where I learnt my history of fashion physically, to actually
yeah,
touch and feel the garments and the silhouettes and the shapes. And it really tested my eye and for fitting ladies into these garments, because there'd be only one-off pieces. There'd be one-off pieces. So there might be a Chanel dress in there. There might be an Ozzy Clark dress from the 70s in there. And because there'd be one-offs, I'd have to get that right the first time. So when my clients would come in and they'd say, "Oh, Peter, what have you picked for us today?" So I would know exactly. I'd know all the stock in Steinberg and Tolkien, because I'd go through every single dress. There'd be like
yeah.
thousands of dress in there. So I'd really hone my eye to make sure that person and their personality would fit the actual dress. So that was a real treat to work there. And then I was at Angels, the Costumiers for 5 years, who did costume for film and TV. So again, probably well, actually, it is 7 miles worth of period costume in
Yeah,
Angels
yeah.
and Bermans.
Wow.
And then my hubby and me decided to relocate up to gorgeous sunny Sheffield. And then I saw this opportunity at John Lewis, Sheffield. They call it Cole Brothers. And it was for a personal stylist job. And I thought, you know what? I would really, really love to do that, because it's almost like it was natural for me to help ladies and men and just to inspire them. And then I just think it's the best decision I ever made. And I was saying this to you before, Lisa, is in
Yeah.
it's almost like it was like a happy accident. It was meant for me. It's like personal styling found me, because I love that interaction, that personal one-to-one interaction with all my clients, to make sure that they feel and look amazing in their clothes, because it's almost like a bit of an addiction, to be honest. I just love helping people look their best.
Yeah, and do you know that? But it's such an interesting thing, isn't it? What you said. You said look good, feel good, and
Yeah.
that's what our always as a stylist our aim is. Because whether it's gentlemen or women, or and whether it's Primark or Prada,
Yeah,
everybody can feel good in what they're wearing. And you obviously you've left John Lewis now, and you're
yes,
completely your own business now, aren't you? Was that a
yeah,
couple of years ago?
yes, it was. So as in, they decided to get rid of the store in Sheffield, and bless them, a lot of a lot of the customers were very unhappy, because they loved coming into John Lewis Sheffield. But then I decided to go freelance and really focus, still keeping my clients from Cole Brothers, and then I also gained some new clients, and now I'm based at Meadowhall. A lot of people know me as the Meadowhall stylist as
Oh,
well.
okay.
But I like to think of myself as Peter the personal stylist, because a lot of my clients who'd come into Cole Brothers would say, "Where's Peter?" And they're like, "Peter who?" Like, "Peter the personal stylist." So
Yeah,
as
yeah,
in,
yeah,
it does what it says on the tin,
yeah.
basically.
But you know, you've said a couple of things that's made me think. First of all, you said about kind of the touchy feely in a comment earlier on, but
Yes.
then you also said about, you know, people used to come in to the John Lewis and ask for you. And what's really interesting, I think some of those department stores, because I worked within Fenwick, and what's really
Yeah.
interesting, some people come in there as a community, you know, people
Oh,
that might not see anybody during the day. We used to have a 92-year-old lady come in and tell the most amazing
amazing
stories.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But she came in to be completely immersed in this lovely fashion and color and fabric, and it's really interesting because you know, we know the online market is huge. We know it is, but I don't think you'll ever take away the fact of visually being able to see product, see color, see texture, see fabric. Will you? I don't think
Yeah.
you'll ever get away from that either.
No, I don't think, and I think it's such a shame in that sense, for those people who lost that amazing little department store. But it was that interaction. You know, like I always believe that thing of, you could come in and spend lots and lots of money on loads of clothes, but what I also celebrated was that person who'd come in and they may only spend like, 15 quid on a scarf, but they'd get that lovely colour confidence boost. And they might come in the next week and spend money on a pair of gloves.
Yeah.
But they were still coming in to get that interaction. They may just come in and not spend money on anything,
Hmm.
but at least they knew that that service was there, or that person was there that inspired them,
Hmm.
to really give them that little push of inspiration. Color inspiration, that's all anyone needs, just that boost of inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that my podcast last week was all about the how fashion has impacted our mental health. And this was that the podcast last week was all about that. And it made me think, oh my goodness, more about how clothing has an effect on how we feel. So, you know, we called this podcast today, you know, the positive effect of clothing. And I think it's so true, isn't it? It's clothes. I always say to people, clothes have an amazing way of making you feel absolutely brilliant or incredibly crap. And
Yeah.
from my perspective, it's all about having something that you wear, like you said, whether it be the scarf or whether it be the gloves or the coat, that makes you feel good. And you're on the same page with this, aren't you? About how
Mm,
clothes can really affect your mood.
completely. And what we find when we are with our clients, like in a session, there may be some clothes or colours that people have worn when they were children, or maybe have been in difficult situations, that reminds them of feeling uncomfortable and unease. And that's why sometimes people can put up blocks about certain items of clothes or colours that can make them feel negative. But I suppose really when they're in a session with us, it's almost like we're bringing them out of that unease and showing them new possibilities, especially with colour, fit, and style.
Mm.
It's more about making them comfortable as they are now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I remember a lady the other day. I did a whole selection for her, and she says, "Peter," she says, "I'm so chuffed because I didn't have to think about losing weight. You made me feel so confident in how I feel now, how I look now. You showed me I do have a waist, because
Yeah.
I never thought I had a waist." And I had to actually show her, I had to put her against the wall and say, "Listen, you are an hourglass shape. Look at that amazing waist. Look at your long legs." And she wasn't celebrating them. She was, what I call it is, and I picked it up from a friend when I was a teenager, I call it the mirror monkeys.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Yes, and everyone, when they're in front of a mirror, they zone in on their negative
Yep, 100%.
areas. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love an ale or three, and I've got my own little tome that I know it's a work in progress, but I know that it's there. So I actually do my little tricks on how to take away that detail with suiting or waistcoats, etc. So then when I'm in front of that lady, in front of the mirror with that lady, I'm showing her she's got assets she can really celebrate. So it's about turning it in from a negative into a positive. So then
Yep.
she's got amazing shoulders that align with her hips. So it's about celebrating that silhouette of her shape instead of judging herself all the time.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and you're right, and I say to clients, what you see in a mirror is not what everybody else sees. So you get dressed in the morning, and you might be looking at, I don't know, your arms look. You think your arms look
Yeah.
big in that shirt, and then you go for coffee or you go to work, and someone says to you, oh, "I love your shoes," and you go, "Well, hang on a minute, why are they not looking at my arms?" Because other people don't see that, and
Yeah,
we are sometimes so hard on ourselves
we
that
are.
actually, like your job and my job, it's about bringing out the person that's there from a positive point of view, because we see it, don't we see the wonderful shapes, the great skin tones, and our job is to enhance it in by
Yeah.
showing ladies and gentlemen, if you work with gentlemen, that
Mhm.
there is so much out there, and it doesn't matter whether you're 5 foot tall, 6 foot tall, size six, size 28. It doesn't matter.
It
It's
doesn't
about
matter
how you feel in your clothes.
because isn't that the joy of the diversity of the world?
Yep.
Isn't that amazing? The fact that everyone's so different,
Yep.
but what we all are, that we are people who get up, we possibly go to work, we want to wear beautiful colours and beautiful fabrics, and isn't that lovely that everyone is different, and
Yes.
that we have that training to help those people to achieve the results that they want as well, and to
Yeah.
actually because what I would put someone in, I looked at, like, and you will do this as well, as in we look at these people objectively. We're not looking at them, we're not putting our style, as personal stylists, we're not putting our style onto them. It's about finding out the personality of the people,
Hmm.
and trying to synchronize what they're about from the inside and making that look amazing on the outside.
Yep. Because then they feel it, don't they? They
Yeah.
feel it. And I was just sitting there thinking that, you and I are no different. And I was talking to my
Mm,
husband at the weekend because he's got a Christmas do that we're going to go to. And I said to him, he said to me one night, "What are you doing on your phone?" And I was looking for something I wanted to wear, right? So I've gone
yeah.
through it and I was like, I've just found this, right? And he just looked at me and he said, "Seriously? Can't you be like everybody else?" And I said, "No, no,
No,
no, because I don't want to look like everyone else." I said, "This is my personality.
it's
I
just
love color.
you.
I love things that are a bit different." But it just made me giggle because, I've been married over 20 years. And he just looked at me and went, "Yeah, because of course you're not, are you? Because whenever
That's
we
you.
go anywhere, you are you." And I said, "Yeah." I said, and if you try to conform me to not something that's a strong print or a lovely color," I said, "I'm not going to feel like me." And he said, "No, I get it." But
Yeah.
it was just so interesting because I was like, "No, this is me." I've got a daughter who's a little bit quirky, whereas her twin brother is very branded, loves brands, but might
Yeah.
buy clothes 4 times a year. Whereas she's quite happy to churn it out because she's a different kind of,
Vintage.
yeah, yeah, all that type of thing. So I think it's so true how when we work with somebody, the difference we can make to their self-esteem. You had some stats, didn't you, that you
Yes.
told me earlier on, all about going back to the positivity, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, it was very really interesting because at this 2012 at Northwestern University in America, they were talking about, they did this research and they called it enclothed cognition. This idea of when you wear a piece of clothing, it can actually inspire you, like physically and mentally, to actually achieve better. So they actually put students in lab coats, and they actually improved like 50% more than they would have without the lab coat, which is amazing.
Wow.
So they call that the positive effect of performance when you wear those certain pieces of clothing. And the same thing could be said about suiting, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like when you could be wearing a pair of tracky bottoms, you know, through the day, you might feel a little bit, you know, relaxed, etc. But then when you put on something like a suit, even for myself, when I wear a suit, God, it really holds me up in a different way. My deportment aligns a lot better, so I'm actually holding myself completely different, and I feel ready to step out into the world. So that suiting, it's amazing what the power of clothing can do. It's
Mm-hmm.
just such an amazing, and I know some people may think, oh, it's materialism, you know, it's fickle, but at the same time, is in ever since, you know, the idea of the Garden of Eden, you know, wearing the leaf
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
It's this idea of um, clothing, the idea of being clothed, and the power of what we do to our bodies to celebrate ourselves and to clothe us. And that's quite interesting. And I mean, this is why fashion is more important than ever. We see it all over Instagram, in the media. So that's why it's an ultimate fascination, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is. And what's really interesting, I think sometimes the clothing that we wear can be seen as almost a suit of armor. You know, it becomes our
Yes.
protective layer,
Yeah.
especially when, like you said about the lab coat, that makes people feel professional. You know,
Yes.
there's such an interesting stat because also when you think about it, I know I've worked with clients who say, oh, I wear this because it makes me feel, you know, confident to go
Mm,
out. Or we know that, you know, if you take, even from a branding point of view, you know, business owners and female business owners and business leaders, and you know, they'll wear certain things for a meeting because they feel powerful in what they're wearing. And it
yeah.
doesn't, it could be a suit, it might not have to be, it could be just a shirt that somebody loves, that it makes them feel good,
Yes.
doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's amazing, is in when I'm with my clients and just listening to them, is in even they know that they want to have that real gorgeous quality fabric. They'll know the difference between
Yeah.
quality and that, even just wearing something with a beautiful fabric made of silk, or maybe like a cupra or a viscose, something that really works for them, is in, and that's the beauty of when they book in with us, because everyone again has their own style identity that we know about, so we can actually see them. Those people who come to us, they might not understand that, but that's why they come to us, and we show them why certain fabrics work for them.
Yeah. Have you seen more um, ladies investing in more, I would call, middle, higher end brands, purely because they know from a longevity point of view? So, yes, it's
Yeah.
going to make them feel good, but then from a longevity point of view, because I've seen a lot of clients now who are doing that because from a sustainability point of view,
Yes.
they're seeing much more into the future with their clothing. Have
Mm.
you seen more ladies doing that, you know, with yourself?
Completely, as in people are not thinking about fast fashion. My clients are definitely not fast fashion. They're more about I still get that element of trend in there, but I
Yeah,
make sure that, like we both would do, is infuse that trend into their personal style. So as in we make, because we know that personal style is timeless and it's
yeah.
about them getting their right style for them. But what they will be after is a serviceable. This word came up a lot last week, actually. It was almost like the word of the week, a serviceable coat. So it's still a very good quality, a gorgeous colour coat, but something that they'll wear again and again and get a good wear out of. And the same with tops, skirts, etc. It's about getting that wear out of those items, and that is very much sustainable, isn't it?
Oh my
If you
goodness, yes.
if you make sure you buy pieces that you'll just wear time and time again, as in I've had clients come back and I almost giggle with them because they have really worn these pieces, and you almost see little. Have you seen that, Lisa, where you get a client and they say, Lisa, I've worn this to bits, and
Yeah,
literally it's almost fallen apart.
yeah,
But that's a fabulous thing because they really have worn that, and
yeah,
they are getting their wear out of it. And I mean, I do tell them there are places where they can recycle these
yeah,
pieces and we can get new versions of them. But that's again, it's about making sure that person is wearing something that really suits their shape, suits their lifestyle. Lifestyle is a big
oh,
key,
huge,
isn't
isn't
it?
it?
Yeah, is in I mean, I'm not going to put someone into a long spangly dress and say, "Oh yeah, you need to buy that. You need to definitely buy that." When they are going from A to B, popping the kids off at school,
Yeah,
then back in their car, going to the job, etc. I mean, everyone is different, but I tend to get a lot of functional men and women who are very, very busy. So I make sure that the pieces I pick work for their lifestyle.
yes,
That they,
massively.
yeah, and a big thing is that they can reach for it in the wardrobe, because we know time and time again, we've all been there where we're looking for an outfit, we think, oh my goodness, what can I wear? And it's because they don't have those reachable pieces, those things that they can just think, yes, that is a bit of me. I'm going to wear that today. I'm going to feel amazing.
Hmm.
And that's what we do as stylists, is we make sure that they have these pieces that they don't even have to think about. They're like, yeah, that's me, done, I can get on with my day, because a lot of people do not have the time to be thinking about what to wear. you
I
know
think I think
some
you
some
and
people
I are
just do not have
cloned,
the
to
time.
be honest. I think you and I are cloned in the way that we work, because we work so similar. Because I always say to someone, we hear that analogy, don't we? You wear 20% of your wardrobe 80% of the time. I say to my clients, you need to be wearing 100% of your wardrobe 100% of the
Of the
time.
time.
But like exactly like that, if you get a partner that comes home and says, oh, we're going out for dinner tonight, you can go, great, I can wear this or this. Or
Yeah,
you go, oh, actually, I'm going for a walk with the dog and my friends at the weekend. That's fine because I could wear this and this. There should never be, I think, anything in your wardrobe that you can't wear for any occasion. You have like a fallback garment, don't you? Or the fallback dress. If you suddenly get invited to an event, you don't have to think, oh, I need to go buy something new. You can go, okay, that's fine. I could wear this. So
yeah,
you've got that wardrobe. It's so important, because I think now people's lives are so busy. And if I
yeah.
look at my life, I'm, a mum to twins. They're all right, they're 18, but I've got one dropping at the train station, one goes off to do her horse, the other I have to walk the dog, then I've still got to
Yeah.
go to work. So we're all the same. So actually, you've got to be able to get dressed in the morning and get undressed at night, not get undressed halfway through the day because you're changing what you're doing to then it otherwise that just makes the wardrobe really unwearable and makes your life so much
Yeah,
harder, doesn't it?
I completely agree. And people do not want to be getting in and out of clothes. And every day, like thinking, oh, I've got to do this now. And it almost makes them actually turn off clothes. So, which is probably why a lot of these people have come to us, because they just want that wardrobe that they don't have to think about, and that works for them. It ticks the box for many things.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, it feeds into that sustainable idea. And it makes them, going back to this idea of positivity, it makes them feel whole. It makes them
Hmm.
feel synchronized with themselves. Yeah, I can do this. I can actually go from A to B in that. Wow, thank goodness I saw Lisa and Peter, because they've actually made my world a lot easier.
Mm.
And people want that, but they still want that little element of trend, but it has to work for their personal style.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but I was,
go on. No, go on.
it was interesting because on another little fact that I pulled out, because you mentioned about this idea of positivity, but again, going back to this idea of it's a two-way street with clothes, because again, there are some clothes that can make us feel bad
Yeah.
about ourselves, and they call that a cognitive dissonance, which is really interesting. It's about those clothes that don't align with us, so we never wear it again. So, as in, we were talking about influencers before, in our conversation before
Yeah.
this, saying that we may look at influencers and we may like their style and we may be inspired to buy something of what they wear, but what we don't realize is, does that style work for my shape? And that's where we may try those pieces that we've seen on those influencers or style icons, but when we put it on, we're not actually looking at how that fits for our proportions.
Yeah.
And then we get a cognitive dissonance. We don't align with that. So we think, oh my God, I'm going to take it off. And then we think, oh my God, like my wardrobe's completely hopeless now. I feel really negative about my
Yeah.
wardrobe. And that's where that sets in, where we start to feel very, very negative about all the pieces we've bought, because we've been inspired maybe by even a fashion magazine, colors, the new trend color. So we try it for ourselves, we put it on, and we look at ourselves in the mirror and thinking, oh my God, I really look awful in that.
Yeah.
So again, it's almost like a vicious cycle,
Yeah.
which is why I think, and you probably, we've said this before, is in personal stylist is a really good way to get you back on track as a person, to really find out what that person's about, to dress
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah, but
Um,
you've just hit that, because you said it before, but you've hit the nail on the head. It's personal. So everybody, like you said before, is different. Everybody's different. Everybody is unique. We have our own unique coloring. We have our own unique style. And I always use the analogy as well. You know, if you've ever been bought a present, a piece of clothing, an accessory from somebody else, and you open it up, don't you? You unwrap it and you go, oh, that's nice. And automatically you're thinking, oh my God, I've got to pretend I like this. But actually, it's no disrespect to the person who's bought it, but
yes,
they've bought it because they like it.
yeah,
They don't think, right now, um what does Peter like? What colors does he like? What styles does he like?
mm,
They just think, I like this. So
I'll
Peter
get you.
will like this. But
Mm,
actually, Peter or me, for instance, we might not like it. You know, I
mm,
my mum, never in the end bought anything for me clothing wise, because she'd know, she'd say to me, can I come with you and you choose something? So we do it as
which is
a,
nice.
we do it as a partnership kind of thing.
Yeah,
But that's why sometimes when we're given a present, we don't necessarily go, wow, that's lovely, because
yeah,
it's not necessarily our style. And that's why we chatted about this before as well. If you go shopping with a
mm,
friend, there's nothing wrong in that, but potentially the friend will say, oh, this is nice, oh, that's nice, oh, why don't you
yeah,
try this? But actually that's because they like it. And again, it
yes,
won't necessarily be the right color for the friend, or it might not be the right style. And that's where, when
yeah,
you work with a personal stylist, it's personal. It's the focus is, as they would say, it's all about me, isn't it?
yeah.
It's all
The
about
pamper,
that. Yeah, it's the pamper session. It's the, we will only do what's right for you.
yeah, because we look at that person in front of us, um, objectively,
Yeah.
as in we look at them, almost as in like a fabulous mannequin to dress.
Hmm.
And I can imagine you're like this, Lisa, thinking, right, what we're going to put you in
Yeah,
today.
yeah. I get so excited.
Yeah, I completely agree, because it's for me to learn about that person, and is in actively listening to what that
Hmm.
person is saying about their lifestyle, because I want to know, what makes that person tick, as in what inspires that person, what programs does that person love to watch? Do they love to watch Strictly Come Dancing, etc., or do they like to watch Detective? Just finding out about that person and just making them align with the clothes, because
Yeah.
clothes our references as well, because we view so much to clothes. You know, like it could be even an item of clothing that has been passed down to us, like an
Mhm.
heirloom item of clothing. So, as in, clothes are so important, which is why we look at our customers objectively, and we want to make sure, again, that synchronicity from the inside of that person happens on the outside, which is where they wouldn't get that cognitive dissonance. They wouldn't feel negative about themselves. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make them feel amazing and look amazing.
And it's real, yeah, you're 100%, because I think it's about a wardrobe full of positivity, not
Yeah.
negativity. And as much as you might have paid a lot of money for a garment, if it does not fill you with joy, move it on. You know, pay it forward to a charity, give it, put it on Vinted, anything like that. But if it doesn't give you that positive mindset, it shouldn't be there. If it's got sentimental value, I would still say bag it up, pop it under the bed, but don't have it in the wardrobe, because you can, no one's saying empty your wardrobe, we're just saying only have it in there what gives you a positive mindset. And you're sitting there with that big smile on your
I'm,
face. It's interesting. So I lost my mum in January, and
I'm
I've been
so
going
sorry.
through her wardrobe, right?
Yeah.
And my mum's wardrobe is a walk-in wardrobe. So you can imagine, I walk in there when I'm thinking, okay, I'm being brave. I've got to start doing things. I found the
Yes.
most stunning Burberry's, not Burberry, Burberry's trench coat. So I reckon this
Oh,
trench coat must go back to 1980s easily. There's not a mark
beautiful.
on it, right? It's stunning. Size 6 will fit me like a dream, right? But it's not my style. So as much
Right.
as I love the jacket, the coat, the trench coat, and I will never sell it because it has, obviously, that has massive sentimentality. It's
Yeah.
hanging on this side of my wardrobe, right? Because I look at it and think, I'd really love to wear this, but it is so not my style. But then I dug a little bit deeper, and there's another Burberry's. So again, it's not Burberry. It's like 1980s, but it's a little blue bomber jacket. That's my style. So I've worn that and I love it because it's me. But there's two garments that are heritage, vintage, stunning. But I had to put aside my, as much as I love that, that's not me. And that's, like you said, even certain things we have, we can wear them, or we just have to say no, that's not me. Because as much as
Yeah.
I would feel pretty good wafting around in a Burberry's trench coat,
Yeah.
I'd catch myself in the mirror and go, that's not me.
Yeah. Oh, that is so powerful.
It's
And
really
that is,
interesting.
yeah, and just by you saying that, is in, you could be so attracted to reach for it and wear it and want to
Hmm.
connect with your
Yes,
mum
yeah,
in
yeah.
that fashion aspect, but then you knew that you were probably doing yourself a
Yeah.
disservice. And but then again, it's still celebrating that item of clothing
Mm.
and then having that as an heirloom piece. But I'm so chuffed that you made that decision to wear that little bomber jacket
Oh,
because I
it's
bet that looks
stunning. It's
fantastic.
very me. And I have to say, hats off to Burberry, because the trench coat had lost a button. And I took it up to Knightsbridge, took it to the shop, and I said, oh, could you just can you find me a button identical?
That is
And the
lovely.
man said, just bear with me. Went away, came back. He said, there you go. I was like, what do you mean? He said, it's done. They actually put a new button on it for me, everything.
They
They
had put
did.
a new button.
Yeah, done there and then. They have a seamstress in the store. So I said to them, okay, oh God, that's amazing. What do I owe you? And they were like, nothing. And I was like,
Oh
no, seriously.
wow.
They were like, no, no, it's. And then they went, how old is this trench coat? And I was like, I know. And but again, you've got to go to that positivity, like you and I were just talking about.
Yes.
The bomber jacket, I love, makes me feel positive. I love the fact when the lining flashes out. But I
Mm,
had to make that decision. So it goes
same.
back to everything we've spoken
Mm,
about you have to feel so good in your clothing, because it
yeah,
it sends that, I think it makes you smile, doesn't it?
it certainly does. And you can step out. And sometimes actually through COVID, especially with colour and cut, I decided to actually I love a little char jacket, as in a char jacket. It's almost like a shacket with like several pockets on it. It's very it almost goes back to the idea of the train drivers from the like the
Yes.
30s. It's that
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
workwear look. But what I did is I used to get some I'd always look in the shops for like white char jackets and dye them in because I love orange. Orange is one of my favorite colors.
Yeah, yeah.
And so through COVID, I dyed a few of these char jackets, different colours, and I would put them on and pop to getting some food, etc. Lining up and
Yeah,
gaps,
yeah.
etc. And I decided it wasn't just about dressing for me; it was also wearing a colour to inspire other people, because the lady at the till says, "Oh, I love you in that colour. I love that bright orange." And I thought, wow, is
Yeah.
in it's we are dressing for ourselves firstly,
Yes.
because I think you should dress for yourselves, not for your friends or anyone else, but for yourself. And but secondly, by you dressing for yourself, you don't realize how it will actually make other people very happy, because just by through color itself, as in wearing that wow color. I mean,
Hmm.
we always see it, like especially coming into winter time, when we're on the train and we see like a sea of grays, navies and blacks. Don't get me wrong, I still like to wear a little bit of black and navy, um but just to see that burst of color, and it's such a positive impact.
Hmm.
And am I wrong when I say I smile when I
Yeah.
see someone in a bright color?
Yeah,
It's
massively.
fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, 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 massive. And I think this season for the ladies, there's so many like brightly coloured coats, isn't there? But I
Mm.
think what's really interesting, and I think you and I could talk forever, but I just wanted to finish as well. I think what's really interesting, we all need to learn to take a compliment, because that's another thing. We all, people will say exactly like, the lady said to you with your orange jacket. She said, "Oh, you look lovely in that jacket." And actually, we all learn when we get a compliment like that, whether it's a jacket or a coat or a shape or whatever, we need to be able to say, "Thank you very much." Because do you know what?
Yeah,
I always think, and it's a really hard thing to do. Don't get me wrong, it's a really hard thing to do.
it
But when
is.
you do it, it makes the person who said, "Oh, I love that coat," and
Yeah,
you go, "Thank you," because I do it. I see people when I'm out and about, and I say, "Oh my goodness, you look so lovely," and you see their
exactly.
face light up, and we need
Yeah,
to learn to give the compliments, and we need to learn to take them.
I love that completely, Lisa. You know what? Because I we know the power of that, because time and time again, how many of our clients have been told something negative about
Yeah,
their body shape, or about you shouldn't be wearing that? Like and from people, it could be people in the family, friends, um colleagues, who've made them feel question their style, as if in a negative sense.
yeah,
but what we really do is in we say, listen, is in it's about you, and it's about you celebrating that color. And by actually giving someone a compliment, think inspires them. And I really do go out of my way when I see someone where when they're wearing a lovely beautiful floral or a bright color, I actually I almost would walk across the street to say to
yeah,
them,
yeah.
can I just say you look amazing in that color? And how impactful is that to that
Hmm.
person?
Yeah,
Because that's a memory they will have, thinking, God, I remember that person said I look fantastic. And it really boosts that person.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the positive power of clothing, is in it's just about synchronizing your inside with your outside.
Absolutely. And I love that. And what a way to finish the podcast. I love that. And you're so right. And I hope everybody has really enjoyed listening to this one, because it's a passion that you and I have in making people feel good in what they wear,
Mm,
and it's massively what I do, it's massively what you do.
yeah.
Peter, for the people that are listening and watching, where can they find you? Where's the best place for them to kind of hook up with you? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Is it your website?
I think you've actually nailed all of them, basically. But as in, if you literally Googled Peter the Personal Stylist, you will come across me on
Good.
there.
Okay.
And you can find me on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram as Peter the Personal Stylist. And it does what it says on the tin. But I'm again on LinkedIn as well. And some people know me as well as Mr. Colour. So that's another way for them to see because I love to teach at the London College of Style colour analysis as well because it plays a big part in what we do.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
No,
It's my
you.
first ever podcast.
Oh my God. But see what I mean? You could just talk forever because we have so
We
much in
can.
common with regards to what we do and how we work.
Yeah.
I think it was a marriage made in heaven for today. So I hope everybody has enjoyed the podcast. Please come back next week and we will see you all again soon. Thank you, Peter, so much.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Take care,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.